So, welcome everyone to a webinar on sustainability compliance, waste management, and EPR requirement for Indian industry. Our speaker today, Dr. Venkatesh Sir, is a seasoned expert with 23 years of plus experience in global across academia, industry, research, and law. He combines scientific rigor, industry insight, and legal acumen to deliver clear, actionable guidance on evolving waste management and EPR obligations. So now I welcome Venkatesh sir to start with the session.
Thank you, Shreya, for the nice introduction. Welcome you all for this episode of our webinar series on environment, health, and safety laws. So let me bring in my slides. Can you guys see? Let me see. Share. Shreya, is my screen visible?
Not yet, sir.
Audible
Yeah,
now?
it's visible. Yes, visible. If you can just put it on the slide share mode. Yeah.
Is it in the slide mode?
Uh, yes, now it is proper, sir.
It's full. Okay. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. So, like Shreya said, so this webinar is going to be on the waste management and EPR, extended producer liability. Okay, which is quite connected with the waste management subject. Okay, so to start with, let me set the context. Probably everybody knows and why we are here. So there, like people say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So this is a National Geographic award-winning picture, like our photo from June 2018. Titled "Iceberg Plastico" by Jorge Gambo, who is from Mexico. So that signifies the kind of damage or kind of penetration or pollution or whatever we would like to call on the earth by plastic. We all know that the tip of the iceberg is nothing compared to what stays beneath. Okay, so this picture pretty much sums up why we need to give importance to the environment aspect. Okay, so this is just to set the context, and the specific thing with respect to waste management and EPR. As you guys know, the things are quite getting dynamic, and the focus on environment is increasing day by day. And to top it all, we have this UN sustainability development goals, and throughout the globe, everybody is giving enforcement angle is also kicking in, and it's increasing by the day. And let's see some recent items from both waste management and EPR, what we have seen in the news. Just some sample. So this is the kind of quantum we are looking at. This is from June this year. Look at the staggering amount of fine and the kind of seizure which is being done, and a specific only to Bangalore. This is from October this year. Again, look at the fine and look at the enforcement, activity. And not only that, so when you look at the kind of the system which is put in place, as you all know, things are going digital, and specifically for the EPR, there is a portal, so for compliance perspective. So that is also going live. And another recent example is about the common effluent treatment plant. That's also, look at the staggering amount of fine, more than 12 crores. And finally, I don't want to bore you guys with a lot of negative news. So this is from a recent, unfortunate event, fire accident, a couple of days ago. So these are only initial reports, but what it suggests is that the construction materials in a particular type of fast burning foam, which is used in the construction material, had contributed to the speed with which the fire has gone out of control. So why this is important is because in India we have this construction and demolition based management rule, the new rule from 2025, which is going to come into force from April 1st, 2026, next year. Okay. So with this, I would switch gear and go to the meat of our presentation. So which is on the regulatory framework. So we'll just see a overview of it. This is the main overview, and this slide gives set the tone for the entire presentation and the discussion. So as you all know, as far as the regulatory framework is concerned in India, apart from the constitutional mandate and other erstwhile colonial laws, the significant piece of legislation happened in 1994 with the enactment of Water Act, which is called popularly as Water Act, which is basically Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, through which the pollution control boards were established, framed, and all. Then subsequently, in a few years down the line, then in 1981, a similar act, pretty much similar, to water, which is Air Act. Again, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1981. And the main regulatory compliance framework which emanated from these two are consent. You guys are very familiar with the concept of consent, consent to establish, consent to operate. Okay, these were the main, and then the establishment of the Pollution Control Board. And the Pollution Control Board was a nodal agency for a given state, and there was a Central Pollution Control Board. But the framework lacked the teeth and lacked the scope and lacked the what do I say? Getting tuned with the technological developments and the kind of substances, kind of materials which were being produced, mass produced, manufactured, used, waste. So with that, we saw a shift the way the acts are framed, the enactments are done, and we get this. I would like to use the word umbrella act for our Environmental Protection Act. It's a pretty small act from 1986, but the key feature of this act is that it does not specify much of compliance per se directly. There are only a couple of items. It talks about hazardous waste, but the shift from getting a comprehensive act to bringing in an umbrella legislature, which will give power teeth to the authorities to enact and be flexible and dynamic and be aligned with the changes happening in the society, both in economic and scientific and technological domain, so that the enforcement, the compliance requirement emanates from various subordinate or secondary or delegated legislature, namely the rules. So this umbrella act pave way for such a regulatory framework. So that's the beauty of it. It's very dynamic. It's very adaptable to various situations. So with that power, a lot of rules were being framed. I think the last I counted, it was more than 2 dozen rules. And there are regulations and there are other secondary or delegated legislatures emanating framed from this. As far as this presentation is concerned, since we are going to have a restricted view only with respect to the waste management and EPR, so only the following rules framed under this Environmental Protection Act will be covered. So it just a listing of the act and substances. There is no the significance to the order. Okay. So hazardous and other waste. So we talked about waste, right? So there are different types of waste, and for each waste there is a rule, pretty much. So we have starting with hazardous and other waste, then e-waste, biomedical waste, everything is waste. The common denominator is waste. Battery. So, like you see that already that there is a specific focus on a particular subject matter, and for that subject matter, through the powers given under the Act, these rules are being framed for to understand, to regulate, to control these particular waste. Similarly, there is solid waste management and plastic waste. Under plastic waste, that's where the EPR concept first emanated. So these six rules pertaining to the different types of waste comes under the scope of this discussion, and pretty much these are the waste which is there. There is one more waste related rule, which is construction and demolition waste. This is the waste I was telling, it's going to kick in next year. There is a 2016 regulation which is going to be superseded with this 2025 regulation, and for the presentation as far as the compliance statistics and all concerned, we are going to restrict only to the six wastes which are listed here. So, having said this, the next important thing we would like to discuss is, you see that there are various wastes. A particular entity or a particular establishment or an industry or a factory or an institution or whatever you want to call it, they may have more than one waste. That's number one scenario. Number two is a particular waste may fall under a different category. So we will see the definitions of the different waste. But the beauty of this framework is that these waste specific rules are kind of exclusive. By whatever I mean by exclusive, if there is an hazardous waste that is not subjected to the compliance requirement from, say, biomedical waste or a battery waste rules. For example, a biomedical waste could also be treated as an hazardous waste within quotes, because if, let's say, we have the classic, everybody has undergone this, corona, So there are theories saying that it was emanated from some labs, so it's a waste kind of thing, and it's a hazardous. And similarly, if you look at the battery, which is very 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 specific, there are hazardous substance acids and inside are part of the waste. So the beauty is, as I said, it may look like there are so many regulations to work with, but when one looks at the applicability, the exclusion of it in the different rules, it's very very clearly marked. Very, very little space for any ambiguity. So that's one key aspect of it. The next aspect, which kind of, um, what do I say, balances out is, unlike other compliances, these compliances are industry agnostic. That's another very, very important aspect of this regulatory framework. So, what do we mean by industry agnostic? It does not depend on the industry, does not depend on the kind of establishment or anything like that. Rather, what it depends on is the material, the subject matter, the matter, the physical, chemical, and biological substances. That will determine whether a particular rule is applicable to your organization or not. Not only the substance per se, the input per se, it depends on the processes, because the process also will contribute to environmental pollution, plus the output, the product which is being produced and the byproducts as well. Not only that, the kind of resources which is being used in an organization. For example, if you take a IT industry, they are not going to really deal with lot of real production factory kind of situation, but they may have specific e-waste and battery waste. Let alone that, let's say that they don't even have that. Certainly, they are having human resources, and we are going to use other resources, and we are going to generate waste. There may be a canteen. Of course, there are going to be restrooms. But not. and even biomedical waste. Let's say there's going to be a first aid room kind of thing, and if there are any incidents and accidents, then biomedical waste will kick. So this is another important point I would like to share, that these rules are not limited to any industry or factory, because generally we have this notion that EHS, factory, those things, but no, it depends on the process. It depends on the material being handled. Handled is the correct word. Whether you are using it as an input raw material, or you're, it's a byproduct, or it is a product, or it is incidental to your operations. Doesn't matter. These acts will kick in. So that's the key takeaway I would like to, emphasis on. There are a couple more other waste related things which are not in the purview, but just for the completeness I would like to share those. For example, another key thing is the radioactive or atomic energy waste. So there is a specific act, Atomic Energy Act, and there are rules framed under that that deals with those kind of waste, those kind of substances. And if you look at, they are also hazardous. And if you look at the hazardous and other waste management rules, which we're discussing here, it would have exempted those atomic energy rules. So it's a very neat, exclusive kind of situation. So with this, let's go to the main definitions. We talk about waste. So when one looks at the Environmental Protection Act, the waste word is not defined. So I have taken the most comprehensive definition for waste from this Rule 338 of the Hazardous and Other Waste Management and Transboundary Movement Rules, which has a comprehensive definition of what waste is. And there is one more rule which defines the word waste, but that's not relevant. That is in the context of construction and demolition waste rules. All other rules, they don't define this word waste. So just for understanding what the lawmakers are intending and how general they are, so I have taken this waste just to understand. So look, if you look at this, it's pretty generic. Like I was telling earlier, that the rules and the act is agnostic, and it depends on the materials. Here is the kind of indicator for that. So the waste means materials that are not product, not byproduct, for which the generator here means, the waste generator has no further use for the purposes of production, transformation, or consumption. See, you look at this, it's very, very generic. Okay. Everything and anything which we have no use, we can be called a waste. And uh, for as far as the particular this hazardous and other waste management rules is concerned, it does define what hazardous waste is. So this is just to show that the waste concept is pretty general and generic and universal application. That's where this regulatory framework and the compliance becomes very crucial and applicable to most of us, if not all of us. So like I said, there are specific definition of waste under the specific rules. It's a pretty dense slide. I have just copied the entire provision, but the take home message is the ones which are highlighted in the red. Again, this is a very generic definition. It says it may cause danger or is likely to cause danger. So the likely to cause danger is what makes these rules very wide in its applicability. It's not that we need to have a clear scientific cause that something will cause danger. Even if there is a likelihood to cause danger, then it will come into the purview of this. And for what? The health or the environment. And if this is not makes it very wide, look at the last phrase. It says whether alone or in contact with any other waste or substances. This makes this definition pretty wide. And specifically, there are three schedules given under the rules. which specify a lot of other, list of substances, list of matters, list of chemicals, compounds for reference. So this is the definition of waste, hazardous waste under the hazardous and other waste management and transboundary rules. Okay. Next, we will go to next other waste rule, which is biomedical waste. Here again, it says any waste, and it gives a specific, medical, biological related activity or processes. But the last inclusion is what is of interest to most of us. If the last line which says including the categories mentioned in schedule 1, similar to the previous hazardous and other waste, we see that here also there is a schedule. If that is not there, then this biomedical waste, we can safely say that it is applicable only to the clinics, hospitals, and nursing homes and things like that. That's where those activities like diagnosis, treatment, immunization happens. Of course, research activities too. Not in, let's say, a factory, or a IT establishment. But one looks at the schedule mentioned in the act, among other items of not relevance to the general any given establishment, there is one item which says soiled waste as a category in the schedule 1 of the biological waste management and handling rules. If you look at that definition of what soiled waste is, it pretty much includes any organization, any entity, any commercial establishment which will have any first aid kind of things which is mandatory, and if any accident happens which led to soiling, soiled waste of, let's say, cotton swabs, strips or whatever, with bodily fluids, then it becomes a biomedical waste, like a blood or mucus or whatnot. So if there is a bodily fluid in contact with any other object, material, matter in your organization, which is very possible because accidents may happen, unfortunately, then it comes into the preview of biomedical waste. Then it talks about the various compliance, how to segregate and how to take care of it and all those things. The compliance aspect kicks in. That's where I said earlier, again, I'm repeating myself, that it is industry agnostic. It's more depends on the process, the matter, and the kind of specific definition it has to follow. Okay. Next, again, this is, sorry, there is a typo, solid waste. This is solid waste management rules 2016. Here it covers the other aspects of the human life, like the sanitary waste, commercial waste, institutional waste, and other non-residential waste. So even though we see the progression, we are talking about hazardous waste, then we talk about biomedical waste, then we come to other types of waste, which is covered in these solid waste management rules. Okay. Then, so this is that construction and demolition waste management rules 2025, which is going to kick in only next year, April 1st, 2026. Here it looks at this. This is another activity which pretty much any industry, any system or any organization would do. That is civil work. You can do renovation, repair, building, maintenance, blah, blah, blah. If you look at those, there are going to be waste generated in those processes which are incidental to running an organization. That is covered under this. So that waste is also covered. Okay. And another specific thing is the battery waste. So here also you look at the expansion, it's pretty expansive, the definition. So this is rule 3ZE of the battery waste management rules. And another thing, you look at the year, everything happened in the last 10 years, 8 years, 5 years. We start with 2016, then 2022, So that's what I was telling and impressing upon, trying to impress upon you in the start, that things are quite dynamic and enforcement is happening, at a rapid pace. And so look at this battery. There had been a push for the electric vehicles, and battery is the main thing for the electric vehicle, the battery waste. So you look at this definition again, pretty much it covers everything. We are having cell phones, we are using laptops, but not. It is not just the electric vehicle. It is not just the UPS system batteries. It covers any battery used, or even if it is not used, if it is discarded, if the end of life has happened, and even the use has expired, everything is considered as a waste. Okay. Then, yeah, this is the last slide on definition. I know it's been quite definition all along, Um, so here the two waste, plastic waste and e-waste, the definitions are given. It's a simple definition because we have seen that the other definitions are quite wide and all. Here, it's very simple. Any plastic discarded after use or after the intended use is over. That's all. All our packing, everything comes into picture. So now plastic is indispensable, pretty much. And we saw at the start the iceberg plastico, So this is where the importance, the connection is. It's very ubiquitous. And what are we going to do? That's where these rules comes in, and the EPR is part of this, which is a relatively recent development. Because somebody has to take care of the entire life cycle. And finally, the e-waste, again, it covers pretty much anything and every electrical or electronic devices which we use, says whole or in part discarded as waste, rejects from manufacturing, refurbishment, and repair. Everything is okay. So I know it's being too many definition. Now coming to the the practical aspect, the compliance aspect. So when one looks at all these six, so we have uh, rules, what kind of numbers or statistics or the compliance has evolved? That's what we will discuss next. So compliance web, I call it a web because as you see, there are six different rules, and there is an interplay of these rules. And we saw that everything started with air and water, and we are very familiar with these things. Generally, whenever we talk about environment, EHS, compliance, and all, the first thing which comes to our mind is CTO, the consent to, operate, consent to establish the consent, and then this, if it's a bigger project, more impact, then the environment clearance. These are the pretty much things which comes to our mind, but these are just the beginning. EHS compliance goes much further, like what we have seen so far, that there is a whole half a dozen rules only for the waste. So there are more than last, it was like 26 rules for different other things. Okay. So the CTO, CTEC, which is what most of us are very, very familiar, is only the starting point. So if you look at these six rules, this is the kind of numbers we are seeing that. And this is a kind of a, what do I say, a semi-arbitrary, subjective classification or categorization. It is based on Aparajita's wide experience handling with compliances. This is what categorized just to drive home the point. What kind of compliances are there? So this number 312, more than 300 compliance tasks emanated from these six rules. Only these six rules. And what are the different types? We see that there are licensing, registration, and display. There is only one. Since it's only one, I can pretty much explain what that is. That is basically comes from the biomedical waste management, where it mandates that in the website of the waste generator app, biomedical waste generator, they should give display the quantity and the nature and type of waste which is being generated should be part of the website. That's the display. Okay. Then returns, registers, statutory communication. By statutory communication, what we mean is that the rules specify that we need to communicate to authority various things. The typical one is in terms of, you know, in the incident of accidents, spillover, things like that. Okay. And advisory. So what we mean by advisory is, even though the word may sound misleading, it is not advisory. It is also a mandatory compliance. Just for our own classification and categorization, we have used the word advisory. Okay, but it is not an advice, but rather a mandate obligation. Okay. Then specifications and standards. And of course, if nothing falls in the above categories, we have called it others. Okay. This is the kind of uh, extent of compliances there are there beyond the CTO, CTE, and ECs. Okay. Aparajita, as you guys know, we are into the compliance partner. So this is basically our bread and butter. What we do is we go through the acts, we list down what are the compliances, then we look at the client's substances, materials handled, and then we see which of these items comes into picture and what are the things which are applicable, and we do the service that. Okay. Another slicing of these information is this. This is also quite interesting to see that not all activities are done all the time. There are some one-time activities, typically registration, license, those things come under one-time activity. These statutory communications, some aspects come under the on occurrence, and there are other repeating kind of compliances, like the returns. Okay, the most of the advisory items they go into that. Like for example, if you are dealing with hazardous waste, there are compliances which says that you are supposed to dispose it off in certain ways, and if there are beyond a certain quantity, if you are giving it to a particular recycler, you have to maintain these registers and you have to submit annual reports. And those recyclers, they have a certain compliance requirement. So like that, those things comes into advisory, and those are done annually. Okay, there are some long-term compliances too. Okay, and so this is what we are looking at, the extent of compliance requirement that emanates from these six waste related rules framed under the environmental protection. Okay. So with this, we will go to the next and the last little bits, and then we will open up for the Q&A. Is the next aspect is EPR, extended producer responsibility. This EPR, there's a rule 3H of the plastic waste management rule, defines what this EPR is. It means the responsibility of a producer for the environmentally sound management of the product until the end of its lifetime. So this is where things get very, very, very interesting and they want to close the loop. It is not that the responsibility of the producer stops with the environmentally sound production, manufacturing, and distribution, even the end of its lifetime. They have made sure that they have extended responsibility. The extension is beyond their production and sale. That's what the extended means. And it came from this plastic waste management, and now they have expanded to the hazardous waste also in a certain degree. And what the concept as such is this, the bottom, by producers, they include everybody, importer, import, export, manufacturing, using, that's where most of the things comes into picture. The persons using these for packaging and wrapping, like we discussed in the start, plastic is ubiquitous and pretty much, industrial packing happens. Of course, there are some, counter movements and counter products, going organic, eco-friendly and all is happening, but that's all minuscule. Okay. And brand owners. So what is brand owner? The rule defines it. It's pretty much anybody dealing with any product who has a brand under the brand. Okay. So that's what the brand owners mean. So the take one simple message is everybody, who uses plastic, any organization, okay, any products. And they are made responsible for collecting waste generated from their products. So most of us may be familiar with this, buyback, policy of the battery waste, battery producers. That's very common thing, right? This is extended. Similar concept, is extended. And the implementation, the enforcement, the power is given at the local body level. Our Gram Panchayat, the municipalities, the corporation at the local level. And these producers and brand owners, they need to touch base with them and have a plan. This is the macro level. This is the idea of EPR. And the actual nuances, the overview of the compliances is discussed in the next slide. So these are the different, you know, category, so if you will, the compliances requirement emanating from the EPR. Okay. It says in one line, I said fulfill the EPR for plastic packaging. So if you look at the rules, it talks about, what are the things, you cannot, one of the simplest, well known is you cannot use plastics wrap material, below a certain thickness, and it should conform to the Bureau of Indian Standards, standards, okay, for its various properties. So that's what it is. And of course, there is a registration. We saw that at the statistics that there are registrations. So this is one such registration, and they have a centralized portal. Okay. Again, sorry, there is a repetition. It's basically producer, importer, brand owner. It repeats. We have to submit EPR targets in their action plan. In the previous slide, we saw that they have to submit action plans. By this, what we mean is at the very high level. So, what is the plan? What is the action plan as a producer, as an importer, or as a brand owner? How you are going to do the plastic waste management as part of your process? Okay, whether collection, dispose, all those things. Okay. Again, ensure minimum recycling of plastic packaging waste. Okay, so on and so forth. So this is the kind of compliances which emanates from the plastic waste management rules under EPR. So the take home message is from this is that our compliance, I wouldn't use the word burden, because it is our duty that we should protect our environment. has increased, and there are specifics depends on individual organization entity, the factory, the commercial establishments operations, and the materials handled. But overall we can say that the compliance is increased. But these compliances, as we see, that they are not redundant, or they are not, there is no multiplicity of it. It may look like that, but there is none. It is exclusive, these rules are. So that makes, it is more ease to follow those rules. And finally, the last slide is what kind of no repercussions, or what kind of enforcements, reckoning and legal ripples in case of any violation. The obvious thing everybody knows, fines, imprisonment. This is very obvious. It doesn't stop there for these items, because this is EHS. It's not like any other act, like Companies Act, or for that matter, even certain labor laws. Because labor law is the hot topic, as you guys all know, that the labor codes, that one of the biggest change in labor compliance, those codes were notified for the commencement last Friday. There also imprisonment is there, but EHS goes beyond it. The tort law and tort as liability, which is not very common, it's not fully understood, but that kicks in. Tort is a civil wrong where there is a duty to care. And every producer, every consumer, they have a duty to care towards other citizens and the environment. When there is a violation, it comes into, it's in a very nascent stage in India, but we can't take it lightly. And it's pretty developed in foreign countries. Okay. This will also come into picture. So it won't stop with the fines and penalties imposed by the rules and the act. This will also kick in. Okay. Then finally, another important thing, there are some other repercussions. Even though if you look at these six acts, six rules, it does not talk about closure of the industry per se. There is a monetary fine and things like that. But since this is environment is connected to life, it connects to public. There is a classic landmark case law, Municipal Council Ratnam versus Sri Chand from 1980, which pretty much told that the penal offenses, CRPC and now it's BNSS, the magistrate is empowered to take action if there is public nuisance, and that can be as damaging and severe as closure of the industry. If there is an apprehension, so this is a very, very serious thing. This is will cause the most damage. Let's say I'm throwing the waste outside and not following these rules. Of course, violation of the rule will come in. But if it comes to the authority, the magistrate, not level of magistrate, they can order closure. So that's a pretty serious, thing we are looking at. Okay. So with this, I would like to thank you all for your attention. And Shreya, we have some time to take up questions if there are any. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And now we are open for question and answer. In case there are questions, kindly raise it in the question answer or chat box. Yeah, Miss Pallavi, can you just type your question in the chat box? So we'll wait for some time, maybe 5 minutes,
Yeah, sure.
and if we
Sure.
are getting it. Hello?
Yes, I see couple of
Yeah,
questions, Mr. Mohammed Moeddin. As a
yes.
company, if I don't register under EPR, uh, plastic, will there be any legal issues? If so, what is the last date? So, as far as the registration is concerned, so before the rule kick in, they had given a timeline. But now, if your company is already running, and if you come under the applicability of these rules, you have to register right away. It is open, and you can register. It's an online process only. The portal is there, and you have to register. And as far as the non-compliance of registration is concerned, if the authority comes to know about it, they will impose fine, and the recurring fine also happens. It goes up to 15 lakhs, I believe. The recent amendments of through Jan Vishwas, the it goes up to 15 lakhs. And not only that, the local authority, they have power to close down the system. They can get you for the inquiry and things like that, because as I said, the EPR extends to the uh, extended responsibility of the producer. Okay. So if you want, because I'm not sure what your company does and things like that, so it may go into the consultancy mode. So that's why I'm giving a generic answer for this question. Okay. Next is Shubham. Are there any rules for biomedical waste? Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. There is this biomedical waste management rules, which we discussed, and this is mostly they deal with. Now, most of the compliances are related to the pharmacy, related to what is it called, nursing home, hospitals, those things. But even other places comes into picture. That's what I was trying to impress upon, because the definition of the biomedical waste in the biomedical rules specify that there is one category of waste called solid soiled waste, not solid, soiled waste. If there are waste which contains bodily fluids like blood, mucus and other things, then it is defined as a biomedical waste, and you have to take care of it, manage it as per the biomedical waste management rules. Okay. So, any
So
other
there are,
questions? Is there?
yeah, there are other questions in the chat. I'll just take it. So the first
Oh,
question is for medical device, with whom does the EPR responsibility lies? For example, devices like thermometer, etc.
so like the term EPR tells, it is extended producer liability. So the producer of the thermometer, comes into picture. Okay. So they may have arrangements with the dealers, retailers and owners and all, but it extends to the producer. It doesn't stop with the manufacturing and sale of the thermometers. And since you there is maybe yeah, since we have only two questions, I will give a quickly. There is an anecdote with the thermometer. There are multilateral conventions, protocol. You may have been familiar with the Montreal Convention, Kyoto Protocol, for all these things. Especially with respect to thermometer, the issue happened in France, I believe. And people from you know my age group or whatever, They may remember that the thermometers were made up of mercury. Okay. And there was a big issue how to dispose it. What they did was they end up throwing it in the water bodies, and the mercury entered the marine living organisms. And then it went into the entire food chain. And mercury, you guys know that it is very hazardous, poisonous. That's where they got replaced. Okay. That's just a story behind this thermometer. Okay. Next question, Shreya.
Next question is, are sludge quantity generated 1200 to 1500 kg approx per rule? In the bracket she's mentioned contractor. Should they take in 90 days, but they won't, as they said the quantity is less? Whose fault will it be?
So, since the sludge is again, I don't know the details. I'm going to give a generic answer, and the specific answer depends on a lot of other parameters. To give a simple answer, it is your responsibility. It's your sludge. Okay. You may have a contractor, you may have a vendor, you may have a contract. If they are not doing their part of the performance of the contract, it is your primary responsibility. Okay. Even in contract, you should have indemnity clause, you should have other clause to protect you, but the liability does not go away. You will be latched on. Okay. So if the authority comes, he will come and knock at your door, he or she, because it's your primary responsibility. And with the EPR and other things, as we see that it is extended, you have to see the entire life cycle. And if the contractor is breaching his part of the contract, you can sue the contractor, for a contract violation, but not this responsibility. Okay, you may get your thing covered, but you will be principally responsible. And if the contractor is not handling, because there are some specific compliances to how to handle, if they are not doing, and if it goes beyond your premise and contractor takes it, and then it doesn't happen, then only those specific situation it will be the sole responsibility or liability of the contractor. Otherwise, it's your primary responsibility. Okay. Next one.
Okay, sir. The next one is, will the waste from the injection waste auto components factory recover EPR? Since we supply parts to OEM, what is the compliance requirement?
Again, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I see two things here. You talk about supply to the OEM, and your own some injunction. I don't know what injunction based auto components. I don't know the details, but you, as far as the products you are producing, it is your responsibility. This will be part of some other equipment product, machinery which the OEM manufacturer is doing, but this is your responsibility. As far as the EPR is concerned, it's a very beautiful question. It's a little tricky. So you should have a, because as far as, let's say, I don't know what you are going to produce. Let's say you are going to produce a tire. That's an easier example. You are going to produce tire. You're not, but you're good, and you are supplying it to the auto manufacturers. What they do with the tire, and then you latch on to that. It extends. Okay, and there are some specific instances, specific compliances where when you have your contract with the OEM as a supplier for him, you have to take care of these things in your contract. Okay. That's number one. Number two is, for the part you are producing, it's your responsibility. Even though the part is going to be a part of some other equipment, some other instrument, some other product, that is secondary. Because I think the lack of time, I'm unable to go back to the slides. If you look at the definitions, it includes all these various cases. Okay, so we can't really escape out of it like it used to happen before. Okay, everybody is responsible. Okay. And as far as this final response, the specific compliance is concerned, I'm sorry, we need to take it offline, and it will be like a consultancy. We need to know what are you doing and how much you are doing and all those things. Then we can map what it is. Okay. That's one. The
Yeah, the
next
next
question,
one
Shreya.
is, yeah, are there any rules for biomedical waste or does it fall under hazardous waste?
Yeah, I think we partially covered. Uh, there is a biomedical waste rule and there is an hazardous waste management rule, and they are mutually exclusive. A given waste will fall under one of these two rules only, not both. So you don't have to do both the compliances. If it falls under hazardous waste definition, then hazardous waste management and transboundary rules will apply. If it does not fall under that, but rather falls under the biomedical waste definition, only that rule will apply. So you have to really look at the definition, you have to really look at the waste, what it is, and see which one of the two will be applicable. Both won't be applicable because it's an exclusive kind of arrangement. Only one of the two compliances you have to do. There won't be any multiplicity, duplicity of compliances for a given substance, given waste. Okay.
Okay,
Next question.
I'll take the next question. Yeah. So here it is that I want to put up a plastic recycling plant in West Bengal. I need a complete guidance with your hand holding of the same. Is it possible for the support? I think so. We can take this externally on the
Yes.
mail.
Yeah, maybe you can, Shreya, give the marketing BD contacts and make them to touch base with Mr. Sanjay Singh Rathore.
Sure, sure. I'll do that. Next question is, please confirm EPR annual return due date will extend from 30th November 25 or not?
Unfortunately, I'm not into prediction or, astrology. So I don't know. It's anybody's guess.
Okay. The next question is there any rule for brick manufacturing company? Bricks
Yes,
manufacturing.
yes, yes. There is a solid waste management rule which we didn't cover. We just briefly looked at the definition that will come into picture. And uh, this what is this this there are other rules but not the waste part, but for the manufacturing processes, because the brick manufacturing involves burning of fuel and all those things will come, but from the waste point of view the solid waste management rule will be applicable.
Okay. What should be done if quantity is around 70 kg, which recycler not ready to pick up?
Oof. Oh, this is a tough question to answer without knowing what 70 kg of what. That's number one. And what is the kind of recycler we are talking about and all. It's a difficult question to answer. Maybe you can touch base offline and we can discuss
Yes, yes.
consultancy, because we need much more information, and the
Right, right.
practical nuances. Yeah.
They haven't mentioned what kind of waste they are talking about and all.
Yeah. Plus, where is the location and all those things comes into picture, and what is the timeline and everything. And maybe you can, like the earlier gentleman for Mr. Lakshman also, you can touch base with our marketing team. They can have a discussion and we can give a proposal or something like that.
Sure. Next is the last question. Is there any recycler for used PPE or in any other way this PPEs can be used?
So I presume PPE, by PPE you mean the personal protective equipment. That's what I presume. So as far as this product specific queries, It's really not in the scope, and I'm not privy to these detail. It depends on the location and all. But this focus of this presentation is on the compliance aspect. Okay. But having said that, I'm sure there should be somebody. There ought to be somebody, because post Corona, India became almost number one in the PPE. So I'm sure there should be some, but I'm sorry, I'm not privy.
Okay.
Okay. Anything
So I
else?
think those were the last questions. That was the last question which we had with us. One second. There's one more. Please give detail EPR in context of e-waste.
Yeah, so this is a very good question, because it looks like there is some, what do we say, misunderstanding or some apparent gap in the regulatory framework. But these two are really little disjoint, different concept. In the case of e-waste, it's very particular to a particular type of waste. Okay, it's only the electronic and equipment waste, okay, which comes uh, with a particular set of compliance requirement. But EPR as a concept is widely little different. It talks about the entire life cycle for a given material. Okay, so this e-waste can be generated at various levels, everybody, even domestic level. Okay, what do you do? That is one. The EPR, from the point of view of the producer, he or she should have a plan how to manage the waste which is going to be generated at the end of the day when the product comes out of the market and it uses over. So that's where the difference is. Okay. From a understanding point of view, you can think like this. The EPR is applicable to a different set of entities, the producers, and brand owners and all. But this e-waste is at a down the line kind of things. Okay. That's how it would be better if you understand like that. Okay. And like I said, to repeat myself, all these waste management rules are exclusive. So you don't have to duplicate, or multiple compliances are not there. And maybe you can touch base with our marketing team to discuss your particular use case. That's what we do, giving consultancy and giving compliance services. That's what Aparajita does. Okay.
Yeah, there are two last questions.
Okay. Maybe last two questions.
Yeah. So one is, what is classified as e-waste for in scientific research equipment?
Okay. Okay. So, like I said, the e-waste is basically electronic and electrical waste. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether it is in a car, or it is in a rocket, or it is in a toy, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. It's a waste which has the electrical and electronic in nature. That's what matters. Okay. So the if your scientific equipments, I'm sure your scientific equipments does contain some electrical electronic parts, and is made up of electrical and electronic materials. And if there are waste coming out of it, then the e-waste will come. Okay. So there is nothing specific to the scientific equipment, but for any electrical electronic equipments which generates waste, okay, which is electrical or electronic in character or nature. Okay. Now, what's the last question?
What is the point to be considered while calculating EPR P-waste?
I'm not sure I understand this question. EPRP waste. I'm
Okay,
not sure what Miss Lavanya is getting into it.
yeah.
But let me give a general answer, like I gave earlier. The EPR and the plastic P stands for plastic waste, I believe. EPR emanated from the plastic waste management rules. Okay, that is connection. And now it is extended, this idea is extended to the hazardous waste also. Um, but the EPR is a concept, it's very different than just the waste management. Waste management is one part of the EPR. You can understand like that. So plastic waste for import of scientific research equipment. Okay. Uh, so you have to, as an import, as a person who is importing, you have to register yourself as an importer. See, there are three types of registrations for a producer, brand owner, and importer. So you have to register yourself as an importer, the registered importer for the EPR in the EPR portal. That's the starting point of the compliance. Okay, so that's the difference. So you have to register. Okay. Hope this explains. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any other questions, Shreya? Or
No, I think that was the last question which we had.
okay.
Yeah, so special thanks to Dr. Venkatesh, sir, for delivering such an insightful and practical session for us for defining waste management and all. So we extend the gratitude to all the participants for your time and engagement with us. With your special presence, it made it meaningful. So we are looking forward for you all to join us in our future webinars also. We'll be sharing the links toward it. And the link for this video will also be put up on our website. We'll be sharing according to on the mails also. So you'll be getting a mailer which will be having a link for this video. So thank you everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you all for your nice, interesting, and encouraging questions. Thank you all. Have a good weekend. Bye.